What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to another Trawick Garage video. Today I wanted to film a video that was a little bit different and kind of explaining the crazy story behind how I bought my dream car at the time at 18 years old, which was my 1976 Corvette Stingray. Now I want to first start by saying, like I said, it was my dream car at the time. So obviously as a high schooler, your financial means for most people are a little bit different. So obviously, my dream car ultimately was, a Lambo or a McLaren or something like that. But realistically in high school, this was my dream car. All right, so to start the story on this car, we got to go all the way back to fall of 2013. So I was a freshman in high school. I was young. I had just started really getting into cars. Like I said, that was about the same time that the C7 came out. I really liked that car. And then obviously, about that time is when all the big Lambos and Ferraris and all that were coming out. So that was really about the time in my life that I really started getting interested in cars in general. So I can remember it. So, like I've talked about in some of my previous videos, when I was in high school, I did video for the football team. We recorded games, practices, all that. And one of my friends that was a little bit older than me, he was actually also a film guy. So typically what we would do on Fridays is before the game, everybody would hang out and just wait for the game to start so we could do our job. And he was actually just about to turn 16 years old, so it was time for him to buy a new car. I remember him telling me the crazy story about why he picked this car. His mom had actually taken him to the dealership, the Dodge Chrysler dealership in town, and said, hey, let's look for you a car, let's find you something you want. And he told me that, they had seen this car come in, and he saw it and was like, that's what I want. I want that one over, something newer. And I don't blame him because, like I said, when I saw this car, I absolutely fell in love with it also. And I still remember the day like it was yesterday. It was him and another guy had both just gotten their new cars. So this was actually his car. This very exact car was his first car he got right before he turned 16 when I was 14. And I remember that, once the deal was done, his mom brought it up there for him so that he could look at it, drive it around, do all that kind of stuff. And I vividly remember seeing this car for the first time and being like, oh my gosh, that is one of the best looking cars I've ever seen. It was just something about the body style, the color. I don't know how to explain it, but it was really the first time I had really been around these old Corvettes and really old cars in general. And I've said it many times before, this exact car was really what got me into old cars and got me interested in the whole thing. Anyway, he had just gotten this car on the exact same day. One of the other guys had just gotten a brand new 2013 Camaro, which at the time was a brand new sports car, which was pretty cool for a high schooler. And I remember both of them offering to take me for a ride in it, and I ended up going for a ride in this car and then got right into the 2013, the brand new Camaro. And I was just like, the newer Camaro just didn't do it for me. Like, it was something about this old car just really made me fall in love with it. So after that day, after I had that experience riding in that car, I said, I'm going to do something one day. I'm going to buy this car. And my goal was to do it before I graduated. So some time goes by, and obviously driving one of these cars every day is not the most convenient thing, especially for a high schooler. So my friend actually ended up putting this car up for sale, and it was right about the time that I was about to get a car, when I was about to turn 16, and I begged and pleaded for my parents to buy me this car. I told them I want an old car, I don't want a newer car, this is what I want. And at the time, the price was just a little bit too high, and again, they didn't really want to buy me an older vehicle that was going to have to keep getting work and keep having to be maintained. They wanted to get me something a little bit newer, and I'm really appreciative of that. But this is where my heart was. So, once my parents were like, no, we're not buying you that as your first car, I was like, you know what, that's fine. I'm going to buy it myself. I'm going to save up. I'm going to make it a goal and kind of get in that mindset to be able to buy this car. And then after that, some time goes by. He ended up not selling it. Now we're going to fast forward a little bit to February of 2017. Now I specifically remember this because, as you can see in this video, I've put them in there. I've got documentation of this car pretty much from the time he bought it all the way up until now. So February of 2017, so I specifically remember this, in high school, there was a group of us guys that we all were really into cars. So, what do you do as a high schooler when you don't have anything else to do? You drive around the local car lots. So we used to do it pretty much every week, and on the weekends, we just drive around all the different car dealerships and see what inventory they had. And I remember seeing on his Snapchat story, he posted a picture, and he said, last drive in the vet, or something like that. And I was like, no way, he's gonna get rid of the car. And at that moment, it made me a little bit sad because I didn't really know what he was going to be doing with the car. I thought it had probably already sold to somebody else and I was never going to see it again. And it kind of upset me, but I was like, you know what? I'll find another one. It's not the end of the world. And again, there were several times that he actually offered to let me buy the car. It had been up for sale, but at the time I just didn't. And at the time I just wasn't financially able to purchase this car as a high schooler. I had saved up pretty much everything I had made, but again, it wasn't really enough to buy this car in full for what he was asking. So by this time, he'd actually had this car and an older Ford Ranger that he was driving, just because, you know, again, he was starting to run into some reliability issues with this car, so he got something else. But he was about to go off to college, so he was kind of trading these vehicles in, both of them, on getting something newer. And I remember not long after, I saw him driving around and he had a newer BMW. It was a 3 Series BMW, it was red, it was a really pretty car, and I remember thinking, wait a minute, I've seen that car somewhere. And then I remembered one of the dealerships had that car in stock. I remember thinking to myself, I wonder if he traded this car in at this dealership. So one Wednesday night after church, me and one of my other friends at the time that were both really big into cars, I said, you know, hey, let's just drive out of the dealership and just see if the car is there. So we got to the dealership, it was not on the lot obviously, and we drove to the back and there it was just sitting there. And I thought, oh my gosh, I'm gonna have another opportunity hopefully to buy this car. So we took a lot of pictures of it. I was really excited to just be able to see the car again. And I knew that that was the car because there were some very specific details on the car. Of course, the side pipes, the paint peeling on the back, which I'll show you a picture of here. And then the logo on the steering wheel was actually turned a little bit crooked. So I knew that that was the car. I knew that was it, without a doubt. So the first thing I do, you know, when they open the next morning is I text the dealership and say, hey, I was driving through your lot, I saw this Corvette, is it gonna be for sale? And one of the salesmen I was talking to, he said, you know what, we actually had that listed to go to wholesale, take it to the auction, but I'll reach out to my owner and, you know, see, you know, what we're gonna do about it. And of course I told him, you know, hey, I'm really interested, I'd love to get a price on it, hopefully work something out, and, you know, let's see what we can do. So he actually texted me back and said, you know what, yeah, you know, he said he'll sell it. We're gonna kind of go through it, we'll get you a price and we'll negotiate from there. So he ended up getting back with me a couple of days later. I probably was kind of pestering him because I was really excited about the potential opportunity to buy this car. And they finally got back to me and they said, you know what, hey, we'll go through it, we'll get it all mechanically running and ready for $8,000. Which at the time was a really good deal in my opinion to have a, you know, with these old cars you're gonna run into issues with them, so to have it fully mechanically going through and fixed for $8,000 was a really good deal. And they had told me, hey, we're gonna have to completely redo the brakes, we can't sell the car until we fix the brakes, legally we're not allowed to do it, so we have to fix that before we can sell the car. And I knew that was gonna be kind of an expensive, you know, piece to maintain, you know, if I were to buy the car, so I was really thankful that I was gonna be able to buy it from there and have all that already done. So after some back and forth negotiating, we kind of settled on, you know, that was going to be our price. This was going to how it was going to be done. And I was really excited because I was one step closer to buying my dream car a lot earlier than I really expected. And then I got the dreaded text that nobody wants to ever get. And pretty much the guy just said, you know, very short and blunt, you know, he'd been very eager beforehand about, hey, let's get this sale done, let's make it work. And he texted me this really short message. I don't think I have the screenshots or anything of it anymore, but he pretty much said, hey bro, sorry that we're not going to be able to do the car deal anymore. Just not going to happen. You don't want that thing anyway. And it really took all I could have not to just fire back something really, really rude. Being a 17-year-old at the time, I was, you know, really upset. I just wanted to fire back and just really rip into these guys. And you know, it just frustrated me so bad at the time. But I had to be the bigger man there. I texted him back and forth a little bit more and, you know, just said, hey, you know, what went wrong? And they really never would give me any answers. All I can assume is that, you know, they realized that they were gonna have to put a lot more money into it and they were not gonna make as much money as they thought they were going to selling to me at that $8,000, which honestly, I would have been okay with paying a little bit more if they would have really went through it and fixed everything. I mean, that would have saved me a lot of time and effort and money in the long run, so I wouldn't have mind paid a little bit more. But you know, it is what it is. You can't do anything about it. And I think the most frustrating part about it was that I knew like this car was probably going to get away from me and I may never see it again. And you know, before it was like, you know, oh, you know, maybe I'll buy it one day, oh, it gets away, but it was like it was so close. It was so close right there to getting it, and then it was just gone like that. So some time goes by, about another year goes by, and I'm getting ready to graduate. And by this point, I've got enough money saved up that I'm starting to seriously look at, you know, some other Corvettes that I can, you know, buy and build making my own. And realistically, like, I was going to make it look exactly like this car. I was going to paint it, you know, bright blue, factory color, put side pipes on it. I was going to make whatever car I bought exactly into this car. So I ended up finding a car. I found one down in Pensacola, so it was about an hour and a half away from me. And I started negotiating with this guy online. I think I found it on Craigslist. That was back when Craigslist was still like the go-to place to look for old vehicles. I ended up talking to this guy, and we kind of negotiated a little bit, and I said, you know what, hey, let me come down and look at it, and we'll talk. So I ended up going down, probably about a week or so later, we ended up going down, meeting the guy. I actually didn't get to drive the car. The guy didn't offer to let me drive the car, which, I kind of understood at the time. I was 17 years old, just turned 18 years old, and that was kind of his his baby, his pride and joy. So I kind of get it, but also I probably should have seen that as a red flag, as like, maybe there's something a little bit wrong with this car. And it looked really good. It was a really good looking car, but there were some issues with it, like it needed headliner, it needed several things, but nothing that I couldn't fix and do pretty cheaply. So anyway, after we looked at the car, we went back home. I talked it over with my parents. I said, hey, what do you think? You guys think I should do it? Should I wait? What do you think? And they gave me some good advice. They just said, hey, if that's what you want, if that makes you happy, I think, you should do it. So I actually ended up talking to a local guy here where I'm from that had a tow truck, and he was kind of a mechanic, and we said, hey, is there any way you can go down, check it over, let's be 100% sure, because at the time I wasn't really as mechanically knowledgeable about these cars as I am now. I knew he would know what to look for, and then, if we did buy it, we'll take it and we'll tow it back. Because again, with it being a 30, 40-year-old car, I didn't really want to drive an hour and a half back, get broke down on the way back. I'd rather just, put it on a tow truck, flatbed, and get it back home safe. So I actually went to the bank. I'd gotten a check. I was ready to go at the purchase price we had agreed on, which I think was like $9,700. So it really did leave room for me to be able to do a little bit of stuff I wanted to do to it, and I was happy with the price. So we ended up getting down there. We actually met the guy at his work. He worked at a local place down there. He had driven the car. We called him and said, hey, we're outside, we want to take a look at it. So he comes out, and then at that point we said, hey, we brought a guy with us. He just wants to kind of check over the car and look at it. And then the guy got really defensive. Like, he got very defensive almost immediately. I don't know if, I know he was at work, so he probably needed to go back to his job, and maybe, we were just offending him by feeling like we were wasting his time. But he made some snark comment like, well, it's already priced really good. It's already a really good car, or something like that. But he got really defensive when our guy started, really looking through the car. And that was kind of the moment in the back of my head I knew, like, something's not right here. I don't think this is the car. Now at that time, our guy goes, hey, I want to talk to you guys. And I think, he was kind of insinuating without the owner of the car there. So then I knew, he's seen something that he really doesn't like. So about that time, when he says that, he tells the owner, like, hey, I think we're going to go grab some breakfast. We'll be right back and let you know. And then that's when the guy got really PO'd. Like, he lost it. Started getting really angry, raised his voice, like, made some snark comments. So that's when I knew, for a fact, something's not right here. And, me being, 18 years old, I was looking past it. I was like, this car's right in front of me. I want it. I'm taking it home. I'll deal with it later. But looking back, I'm glad that, we made the decision that we made. So anyway, the guy starts showing us some issues. He starts showing us, hey, you got a leak in the head gaskets here. The exhaust is bad. He started showing us some issues on the paint, and then really kind of the final nail in the coffin was he reached up under the front of the frame and pulled a piece of rust about that big off of it. And at that point I knew, like, that's it, we're done. And he told me, he was like, hey man, look, you can buy the car if you want to, but I would advise against it. You're gonna find another one out there. So we ended up leaving. We passed on that car. I was really mad at the time. I was frustrated all the way home because I really was looking forward to getting my car that day. But I know in the long run I made the right decision. So now, speaking of that Corvette, it really kind of was a blessing in disguise. So I'm sure some of you may know that these cars don't have the standard VIN number. That started in '81. So you can't just go on a Carfax and look up the history of cars like this. But I kind of wanted to know the history of the car that we were looking at down in Pensacola before I bought it. And while I was looking, I ended up finding a website that was a C3 Corvette VIN, website. And it was like a registry of sorts. So pretty much any time that one had either gone through like an eBay auction or sold on Hemmings or any of these platforms, it was being tracked and showed up in this website. And I think at the time there was only maybe 13% of all the Corvettes from 1976 were registered on here. So I ended up finding, the car that we were looking at in Pensacola, but that kind of got my mind running going, I wonder if I can find, this car. So I ended up looking, you could sort it by color. So I ended up finding color was bright blue. It had black real leather interior, which I knew this car was optioned with. And the location was Dothan, Alabama, which is about 35 minutes from where I'm at. And I thought, this has got to be the car. It's got to be it. So it actually ended up in this kind of classic car restoration shop that's over in Dothan. And, you know, like I said, looking back kind of like at the dealership, I saw those little specific details and I knew that's the car, that's it. So from there, I get really excited and I'm like, okay, you know what? The other Corvette didn't work out. I'm going to try to track this thing down. I'm going to find it. So I ended up reaching out to the place over in Dothan. I just reached out and said, you know, hey, here's the deal. This is one of my friend's cars. I'd really like to have this exact one. I know that it's been about a year since it was posted for sale. I'm assuming that it's probably sold. And of course, it had already sold. So from there, I just kind of asked them, like, you know, hey, I know that, you know, is there any way you could, you know, put me in contact with the owners that you sold the car to? And the owner of the dealership said, you know what, hey, we'll look through it. We'll see what we can find, see if we can get you guys in touch, and hopefully, you know, make it something happen. So about a week and a half went by and I'd still not heard anything. So by then I'm getting really anxious because again, I've got that, you know, itch that like, I think I'm close to this car again. And I just keep looking through the listing pictures and I'm just like, man, that's the car. Like, that's it. It's been close. I'm a next step further to finding it and being able to buy it. So about after that week and a half, I reach out again. I'm like, look, is there any update on this? Like, I'm really antsy. I'm sorry if I'm bothering you guys, but please, is there anything that you guys can do? So they actually ended up getting back to me. They said, you know, hey, here's the new owner's phone number and name. That's who we sold it to. So maybe you can start there, reach out to them and see if they may still have it. So it was kind of a shot in the dark. I took this number. I sent him a text message and, you know, I just said, hey, is this so-and-so? Here's why I'm texting. I got your number from this place and I'm really interested in buying the car, you know, or talking to you about it if you still have it. And a little bit of time went by. I never heard anything back. And I was like, you know what? It's a lost cause. Like it was worth a shot, but you know, I guess it's just not meant to be. And then I ended up getting a text message back that kind of shocked me a little bit. So I ended up getting a text back from the lady who was the current owner, and she told me pretty much, you know, hey, yes, I still have the car. It was my ex's. And then I was like, okay, like, is this like a weird situation? Like, I didn't really know what I was going to be getting myself into. So I ended up still talking to her for a little bit. We kind of went back and forth, and she said, you know what? You know, it's his car. She said he works offshore. When he gets back, I'll let you talk to him and then let him kind of decide what he wants to do. And crazy enough, I actually ended up finding the guy on Facebook. Like, I was looking through his, after I got the name, I looked on his Facebook and I saw the pictures he had posted of the car. So I was like, oh my gosh, this is it. Like, this is him. Like, this is the car. So then I waited about 3 weeks until he got back offshore, and I ended up giving him a call. So I talked to him a little bit, kind of told him the story, told him the backstory behind the car and why I was looking for it. And he was actually really, really intrigued by, you know, the story of the car, my age, and how I'd really worked really hard to buy it. And he said, you know what, man, like, I've had it, I've enjoyed it. I don't get to drive it as much as I would like being on and offshore. You know, I'm kind of looking to get another toy. I'll sell it to you. So we talked to a price, we agreed on a price, and I knew what he had bought it for, what it had sold for from the place in Dothan. And he had told me all the upgrades he had done to it and the parts he was going to be including with it. And then I knew he wasn't trying to make any money off the car. He was just trying to recoup what he had in the car. And I probably did overpay a little bit for the car. I did pay $12,000 for it, which at the time was a little more expensive probably than the car was worth. But again, it was a sentimental value of having this car. And realistically, by the time I bought another car and did everything to it to make it exactly this car, I was probably going to be in about the same amount of money anyway. So some time goes by, we start chatting back and forth. You know, we've agreed on a price, we're going to do it. And he said, you know what, hey, I'm going off, but when I get back, we'll schedule a weekend and, you know, we'll get this deal done. So, you know, my parents did surprise me with my Camaro when they got me. They're all about surprises, and they were trying to kind of get me good. So they ended up getting the number from the people that I talked to and ended up talking to them on the side about a plan to go pick up the car for me and kind of surprise me with it. So the night rolls around, it's my graduation party. I had a lot of family and friends there, and you know, my parents had said, you know, hey, what do you want for graduation? I told them straight up, I said, hey, you know, I want some money. You know, you guys can help me out a little bit because this is what I want. This is what I'm gonna buy as my, you know, graduation gift. I said I was gonna do it. I was gonna buy it before I graduated, and that's what I wanna do. So anyway, I'm going and opening gifts, you know, I'm getting some money, I'm getting this, and I keep making these comments the whole night when I'm opening all the gifts, like, oh, yep, there's money towards the Corvette fund, there's money towards the Corvette fund. I'm getting close. And then my parents are like, you know, hey, we've got your gift for you. We want to give it to you. They end up giving me a bag, and it had a blue Corvette t-shirt in it. And come to find out, it was actually a t-shirt, you know, that the owner of this car that we bought it from, he had sent to me. He said, hey, I want him to have this. And then there was a little bag, and I pulled the keys out of it. And I knew they were old Chevrolet keys, but I just thought it was some kind of, you know, like, hey, you know, we're going to give you some money towards the Corvette. We just wanted to give you these keys so you actually had something physical, because my dad ended up having an old 90 Chevrolet that had the exact same key. So I just figured it was those keys that he had kept. And then about that time, I kind of start putting everything together. Like, well, wait a minute, like, hold on. So then my parents, they're all excited. They're really smiling. They're like, well, you better go check it out and see. So at that moment, in the back of my head, I'm like, there's no way. There's no way that this car is here. Like, I still have to go pick it up. It's not here. So we walked back down behind my great aunt's house, which is right next door to my place. And there it is. It's sitting there. This 1976 Corvette, my 1976 Corvette, was sitting there. So obviously I was over the moon. I was super excited. I didn't expect to be able to get this car for probably another 2 to 3 weeks to maybe a month. And then it was there. So they had actually went behind my back, scheduled all this, met the people, picked the car up, and they said, you know what, hey, we'll settle up later, you know, on the money, you know, whatever you want to pay on it, we'll pay our portion, and that's what we're going to do. And if for some reason any of you guys are watching this video, I again want to say thank you so much. I hate that I still haven't gotten to meet you yet, but hopefully eventually I'll get to meet you in person and thank you in person. But you know, I know that you didn't have to do that. You didn't have to sell me this car, but I really do appreciate it, and I'm very thankful for that. So obviously I was super excited. You know, I've had this car since, like I said, I got it in 2018, so I've owned it for just over 5 years now, and I've loved every minute of it. This car is a love-hate relationship. You know, some days I hate it, I want to sell it because it gives me so many issues. But at the end of the day, every time I come look at it, and I'm like, man, that was your dream car, and you did it. Like, you did it. And again, I don't say that to toot my own horn. It's just like I was very proud of myself for setting a goal in high school and saying I'm going to buy my dream car before I graduate, and really just saving up and earning a lot of money and putting everything towards it and being able to achieve that goal. It was a really proud moment for me, I will say. So then after all this is over, I actually, word got back to my friend that was the original owner. It was his first car. Word got around to him. I was going to try to surprise him with it and just show up to his house and say, hey, I've got your Corvette back. But anyway, he ended up texting me. I guess he had seen it. Somebody had posted it somewhere, and he was like, you know, hey, did you buy my Corvette? And I was like, yeah, I did. So I ended up taking it, showing it to him. I let him drive it, you know, back to the neighborhood, and he was really appreciative to be able to kind of see this car and drive it again. And he was really excited that I got the car too, because he was like, you know, hey, now I'm going to get to still see the car again. You know, it was kind of one of those things that I regretted selling it, but I needed to do it. So yeah, he's been really excited that he still gets to see this car, and he was like, you know, I know that you know, really love this car and you're going to take really good care of it. So as it stands, I've kind of gone through the car mechanically. I've almost got it mechanically done. You know, we're having some issues with it right now, but I'm going to get that sorted out. And then eventually I want to get it all cosmetically fixed. You can see there's a couple of like little paint issues here and little places all over. And then the interior, I want to get that redone also. The seats are a little bit ripped, kind of get new carpet, just really refresh and restore this thing and give it some new life. And this is a car I said I'd never sell. I've said it so many times. I've had offers on it. I've had tons of people want to buy it from me. A lot of people know that I have it, and I've got several people that have told me, whenever you decide to sell it, you let me know first. But as of right now, I do have no plans of ever selling this car. You know, I really do want to keep it, pass it down to my kids, and kind of let them experience this car, and you know, hopefully it'll get them intrigued into cars just like it really got me intrigued into cars. And again, it's just kind of like a, you know, I accomplished it. I did it. You know, this is here in my garage. Like, it's sitting here. I did it. So anyway, that's going to wrap up this video. You've now heard the crazy story of the, you know, several year chase down on buying this car. Almost all my cars, I have a little bit of a crazy story on how I got them. But I hope you enjoyed this video. I wanted to just kind of share the story behind this. I thought it was, you know, kind of an interesting story, and hopefully you found some entertainment out of it. And for those of you out there who may be trying to chase down a car or look for a specific car, just, you know, keep doing your research. The internet's your greatest tool at this point. But anyway, again, I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you guys for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you want to see next, and help us grow the channel. It'll really get us to being able to do some really cool things with all the different cars. And again, thank you for watching as always. I hope you enjoyed, and we'll see you on the next one.